veins, I've been driving this train. Years in this lane, there's no stopping this flame. Cause I came to the game.
What's going on, you guys?
Changed
It's your boy, the American F1 fan, Eric Ringle here, and it is now prediction time. We are just a day or so away from the Formula One season officially beginning, and it is now time to put out my predictions for what I think the Constructors' Championship look like, and I will also give you who I think is going to win the World Drivers' Championship for 2022. So let's not waste any time in this video. Let's get right into predictions. We're counting down from 10 to 1, and we're starting with number 10, and number 10 is Alfa Romeo. So all throughout testing, they've not shown a whole lot. You've seen some glimpses with Valtteri Bottas and some of the speeds that he's been able to put up. You've got Guan Yu Zhou, who's a rookie driver who's just coming into the team, has been able to produce in Formula 2, had several victories last year, but is now making the step up to Formula 1. And Alfa Romeo has just not been able to put in the laps throughout all of testing this year. And it's just really hard to believe that Alfa Romeo is going to be able to put up a fight to become one of those teams within the top midfield or even be pushing for a potential championship. I just don't see it, and I just didn't see the speeds there all throughout testing. So that's why I've put Alfa Romeo at the number 10 spot. Now on to number 9, and this may catch a lot of people off guard, and a lot of people may get really surprised by where this team is ranked, but at number 9, I have Alpine. BWT Alpine is my number 9 team, and we've seen some glimpses that they could have a very fast car, but we've also seen some reliability issues, and they just haven't been burning up the time charts. And as much as I like Fernando Alonso, a former 2-time world champion, and Esteban Ocon, who, at times has shown he can be really good. Last season he had his first victory ever as a Formula 1 driver. I just don't know if they've built this car. They're trying to put out this new engine where it's a split turbo, and there's been a lot of back and forth going from different teams of whether or not this split turbo is going to be, kind of the way teams are going to go. But it really hasn't shown off that they've had a whole lot of speed. They've just been kind of in the midfield pack, and they've not really just burnt up the timesheets. And I just don't. I have a really hard time believing that with the development of this car and the development of this new way of the engine that they're going to run, I just don't see it. I love, like I said, I love Fernando Alonso. I love what he's been able to do as a Formula 1 driver. And here's the thing too, and this is something I'm going to mention. Probably from about three or four down, all the way to the very bottom, I think this is going to be extremely close. So I could see, maybe 1 or 2 spots for each of these teams going one way or the other, but I just see Alpine finishing in the 9th position. My number 8 team is the Williams Formula 1 team. Now, there has been a lot of talk about how this team was really showing promise at the end of last season with George Russell putting up some fantastic efforts in that car. Nicholas Latifi at times can show the kind of Formula 1 talent that he has, but now with Alexander Albon there at the team, they're really expecting big things because with Alex being a former Red Bull Academy driver, and he's still with the Academy, but now he's with Williams driving for them, they're expecting huge things out of this team and huge things, being able to score points on a regular basis. And I don't know. I think more than anything else for the Williams team, I think it's going to come down to a lot of reliability. We saw the human error pop up in the second day, when Nicholas Latifi literally had his brakes light on fire, and Latifi had to turn into a firefighter to basically put out the fire that was engulfing his car. And brakes is one thing, especially with these new cars. You don't know whether or not the brakes are going to be able to stay at a cooler temperature, or are they going to overheat too much. which we saw with another team in McLaren. They were having massive problems with their braking system all throughout this second test. So our team's going to be able to find a way, and I'm just not sure that Williams is ready with. And I think Alexander Albon's going to be able to put up more points for the team this season. I just don't know about Latifi. I know he's been able to produce within Formula 2, but I just don't know if he's going to be able to produce in Formula 1. My number 7 team is another surprising one, and like I said, these are all going to be really, really close. But my number 7 team is Aston Martin. I love Sebastian Vettel. He's been putting up some great times all throughout the session, and even Stroll has at times, put up a top 3 time. But I still question on whether or not Lawrence Stroll is leading this team in the right direction. Lawrence Stroll being the owner of Aston Martin, or one of the owners of Aston Martin. And I just don't know. I feel like, and a lot of people out there in Formula 1 have been saying that they're worried that Lawrence Stroll is going to try to take on too much of, the design of the car and may lead them in the wrong direction. And he's even talking about now potentially producing their own power unit, which is a little puzzling in and of itself. You're running a Mercedes, which, on paper over the years has been probably one of the most reliable engines in all of Formula 1, and do you really want to take that risk in putting the engine there? I just think Lawrence Stroll is putting too much on this team's plate and putting too many expectations on this team to where I just don't think they're going to be able to live up to the hype, so that's why I have them at number 7. My number 6 team, and I know I'm probably going to catch some flack from a lot of these fans, but my number 6 team is McLaren Formula 1. Now, I love Lando Norris. I think he's a great young talent. I love his stuff on YouTube. I love the way he's able to race. I love Daniel Ricciardo. I think he's been such an underrated talent in Formula 1. He's kind of caught the short end of the stick when he was at Red Bull, having Sebastian Vettel as his teammate. I think that kind of, overshadowed him a lot and overshadowed a lot of his talents. And then as soon as Sebastian was gone, Pierre Gasly was there for a bit of time, and you saw how good Daniel Ricciardo could be. And then, oh, hey, look, here's Max Verstappen, the newest, wonderkind, and, all of a sudden, Daniel Ricciardo gets forgotten about again. But with McLaren, I think their biggest issue going into the season, like I just mentioned, was their braking issue. They didn't have so much of the reliability issues, but I wonder, they had such a hard time. They went so far as to even bring in new parts, flying new parts overnight to try to fix this braking issue, and they still weren't able to figure it out. Now, hopefully, maybe with another week's time, they're able to figure it out in some way, shape, or form, or maybe at least be able to cut some of the braking problems down. But if you watch any of the Formula 1 testing, you would hear at times that due to this braking issue, they weren't able to run at full speeds. And if you're not able to run at full speeds, you're going to be carrying out the back of the pack. So I think a lot of this is based on, are they able to fix this braking issue? And if not, it's not going to allow them to run at the speeds that they're wanting to run this car at. Number 5. My team, Haas Formula 1. So I know I'm going to get a lot of flack from the Formula 1 purists at heart and the big Formula 1 fans of Europe, and they're all going to be like, oh, Haas ain't nothing. Haas doesn't do anything. Gunther Steiner and Gene Haas and all these other. I get it. There's a huge bias when it comes to Formula 1 with an American team in Formula 1. I get it. I get where you guys are coming from, and that's fine. That's totally your opinion, but this is mine. I've seen a lot out of this team. Now, I want to preface this by saying, first and foremost, had Nikita Mazepin still been with this team, I guarantee you I would have had them probably near the bottom, if not at number 10, because I just don't think Nikita Mazepin has that kind of skill. But with Kevin Magnussen now rejoining the team, I think he is the perfect person to pair up with Mick Schumacher, Magnussen has been known as one of those guys that could get results out of absolutely nothing. We saw in the last season that Magnussen was in Formula One. He was able to score a 9th place finish out of a car that was literally always running towards the tail end of the field. Kevin Magnussen is that type of driver, and to bring him back into a Haas Formula One team and to pair him up with Mick Schumacher, who we've seen talent out of. There were times last season that literally Mick dragged the car, which should have been at the bottom of the field. He dragged it into Q2 of qualifying sessions on 3 separate occasions. So I think adding Kevin Magnussen back to this team and the way he's going to be able to help lead development of this car and be able to lead to the, potentially making this car faster, I just see them as a potentially top 5 team. And, if they're running the speeds like they did in testing, shoot, anything's possible. We could be talking about a potential Haas championship if they're able to run those kind of speeds. All right, on to number 4. I have AlphaTauri. Now, a lot of people are going to say that this may be a ranking that's way too high for them, but I think Pierre Gasly is probably the one reason that they're going to be in this position all throughout the season. Pierre Gasly is fighting for that Red Bull seat. He literally wants that number 2 seat. Sergio Perez may not be all that long for the Red Bull team. This could be his very last season of Red Bull. It could be his last season in Formula One, period. And Gasly has got to prove that he is going to be able to run in the other's chair against Max Verstappen in Formula One. And this is the season he's going to do it. He's going to be able to prove that he is a top-tier talent that deserves that drive, especially with the new cars that are involved. And let's not forget about Yuki Tsunoda. I think this is going to be a big breakout year for Yuki. We saw that there were times that he could really race in Formula One. There were times you saw him fighting with the likes of Lewis Hamilton and even Max Verstappen at times. And I think Yuki is going to take a big step forward, especially within these new cars that are coming into 2022. And so I just see that AlphaTauri is going to be a team that is going to fight for a top 5. And this is a team that, if Pierre can catch a couple of wins, maybe Yuki catches a surprise win here or there, we could see them fighting for, top 3, top 2, maybe even a world championship. Then we move on to number 3, and I think this is where a lot of Mercedes fans are going to probably hate me, but I've got Mercedes at number 3. I love Lewis Hamilton. George Russell is I would say, probably one of the up-and-coming young guns within Formula One. But if I'm going to be totally honest, you're starting to see the signs of the downturn of Lewis Hamilton and his career. You're starting to see that, it's not so much that he's not putting in the effort, but so much that I think he's finally starting to realize he's getting a little bit older, and, he's now having to fight he was having to fight all of last season with Red Bull. He's got a brand new teammate in George Russell this season. I just don't think he's going to be able to finish as the top team this year. Now, don't get me wrong. I know they're going to be fighting for victories. Let's be honest. Lewis can sit here and lie to everybody's face and say, we're not going to be fighting for wins, but we all know. Mercedes is going to have a couple of wins this season. In a 23-race schedule, they're going to get a couple of victories here and there. I wouldn't be shocked at all if we see a George Russell victory in here, 1 or 2 victories this year for George. Then moving on to my number 2 team, it is Red Bull Formula One. Oracle, God, how many, whatever sponsor, Oracle Red Bull Formula One team. So I've got them ranked as my number 2. Max Verstappen is good. Sergio Perez is okay. I think we started to see there were some cracks in the face of Sergio Perez last season, being put in a top-tier car. And we've seen this before from Sergio Perez, if we're being brutally honest. When McLaren came calling back years and years ago, When McLaren was a top team in Formula One, we saw Sergio Perez crack under the pressure of being in a top team, and I have a feeling we're starting to see the same things that we saw before from Sergio Perez, and I just don't know if Max Verstappen can carry a team on his own and be able to share the brunt of trying to score as many points as possible to get his team to victory. So that's why I've got Red Bull at number 2. And now on to number 1, and it's time for the resurgence time, and I truly think that this, everything I saw through testing, throughout both test sessions, and with the drivers that have gotten involved, Ferrari are going to be the Constructors champions for 2022. I just think the talents between Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc are just absolutely bar none it's the best 1-2 combination on this team, and it's funny that you want to say 1-2 and you always hear, this guy's first driver or this guy's second driver. Ferrari's not been that way, and we saw that a lot last year with the fact that Leclerc and Sainz are basically equals within this team, and I think that's outstanding for a team to have that kind of thought process going in to another season. Leclerc showed great signs when he first got into Formula One with Alfa Romeo and being able to drag that car up to the heights that it probably shouldn't have been in to begin with. And then we've seen Carlos Sainz so many times come so close to winning his first Formula One race. I am saying it now, I think Carlos Sainz at least wins his first race of the season, if not multiple races this season. But in regards, I just think the Ferrari team is just by far the best all-around team with both of their drivers. I think a lot of the other teams you see, one driver's better than the other and one driver's maybe not as good. Ferrari's got both drivers that are really, really good. And so now, my choice to win the World Drivers' Championship for 2022. I've been tossing this back and forth. I've been back and forth between 2 different drivers for probably the last 24 hours, I would say, to be honest. And I'm going to go with Charles Leclerc as the 2022 Drivers' Championship. He will win his first, I think, of many Drivers' Championships within Formula One. I just think Ferrari has developed their car way too well. They're like, and I will equate this because obviously I'm a Haas team fan. They have been waiting for this point to where the new regulations were going to come out, and they had a chance to basically restart everything, reset everything, start back at zero. And Ferrari have been working their tails off to get this team back to where they used to be, which was a top team within Formula One. And I can't see how Charles Leclerc does not win the championships this season with the car that Ferrari has given him. I think it's going to be a very close fight. I think it's going to be between Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen. I think because Max is having to carry the Red Bull team, he is having to fight for every victory. I just have a feeling it's going to be down to those two. I think Lewis Hamilton's going to finish third. I think this could potentially, you could see a scenario in which Lewis says, you know what, I'm obviously falling off. I've now finished third. It's time to retire from Formula One. But guys, let me know in the comment section down below. What is your 10 through 1 as far as your Constructors' Championship? Who do you think is going to win the Constructors' Championship? Is it Ferrari? Is it Mercedes? Is it Red Bull? Or is it going to be a surprise team? Maybe like Haas or McLaren or AlphaTauri? Let me know in the comment section down below. Guys, slap a like on this video so we can get this out to all the people in Formula One land. The more likes you guys put on this video, the more this video gets shared around all throughout YouTube. So guys, slap a like on this video. And subscribe to the channel if you guys are new, because more and more Formula One content is going to be coming out all throughout the season. I'm going to be covering races just after the race is finished. I'm going to be doing my deep dive into the race and letting you know my thoughts and, the big, moments of each race and what I thought of everything. So guys, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Guys, I'm Eric Ringle, and I'm signing off.
Ice in my veins, I've been driving this train. Years in this lane, there's no stopping this flame, 'cause I came to the game.